What's going on, you guys? Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to go ahead and do a quick tutorial slash tip here at the beginning to show you guys that you can stop the Shizuru Lucky Chance event board early, and you can pretty much stop it whenever you want, and you will land on whatever it is currently on at the time that you tap. So pay attention to the bottom right hand side of the screen. I have the footage slowed down so it'll be easy to tell, but you'll be able to see the sparks from when I tap right here. So I went ahead and tapped right as it landed on that R-stone box, and I did go ahead and stop it on said R-stone box. And then right here, it's gonna land on Chizuru right here, and I tap and I get her. So you can stop the board whenever you tap, and you can do that early on, you can do that later in, and blah, blah, blah. It really doesn't matter when you do it. However, there is going to be a bit of a double-edged sword aspect to this, as basically at the beginning, when it's moving really fast, the odds of you being able to time it correctly are very low. So you only have about a split second when you can stop it on what you want at the beginning. My recommendation would be to use this more so whenever it is starting to slow down. If it happens to land on Shizuru while it's slowed down, that's when I would go ahead and tap on the screen to pick her up. Now, I have also picked up 2 more of the coins for her today using this trick, so this does work very well, and tons and tons and tons of people in the Discord have proven that as well and have been using it themselves. So yes, you can go ahead and give yourself a little bit of an edge with this event. However, like I said, probably not something you want to use at the beginning when it's going really fast. You might want to do it towards the end. But with all that being said, good luck to all of you guys out there, and let's get into the video. Well, happy Saturday, everybody.
It's party time! P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta!
What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and happy Saturday to all of you. Before we get into the Saturday chat and chill, if you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoy daily King of Fighters All-Star content such as this. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this week's Saturday chat and chill. And in this week's installment, we are going to be talking about the Christmas update. I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys some various tips and observations and opinions on this newest update, because we have now had a couple of days to play around with this stuff, and overall this has been a fairly solid update, if not a little bit flawed with some of the things that they did here. And being the fact that they did a lot of new and interesting things with this update, I just figured I would go ahead and give you guys a little bit of information based on what I've observed, as well as give you a little bit of tips on some of these events. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, of course, if we're going to be talking about the Christmas events for 2021, we have to start off with Shizuru and the Shizuru Lucky Chance event. So when it comes to this event, basically, if you guys saw my breakdown video, you'll probably already know I'm a fan of Shizuru. I think she's going to be awesome, but I do not like the Lucky Chance event board whatsoever. I think that thing is honestly kind of garbage, because I do not like these systems whenever they roll these out. I especially don't like it whenever it appears as if they are trying to force people to buy packages in order to be able to build up a character that might potentially end up being their favorite character, especially with Shizuru, considering the fact that I know a lot of people out there that I've talked to for a long time have been waiting for her to get some sort of limited banner variant, and here we are. She has been added into the game. She's extremely strong, and yeah, she's locked behind a Lucky Chance event, which is a double-edged sword. You know, when it comes to these events, it is nice that we can build these characters for free, potentially. The problem is that the odds are not in your favor to be able to build these characters up to maximum without spending money. When it comes to these boards, you have a finite amount of times that you can do any of these missions, especially, for instance, things like that enhancement hammer mission that was part of this. That thing is really the MVP of the missions that were available. However, that thing does max out just like most of these, and once you've maxed those out, you find that your progress ends up coming down to a crawl, and that's kind of where Netmarble gets gets you, and any of these types of games get you with these types of events. They lull you into a false sense of security at the beginning because you're going to get plenty of currency to go ahead and play these events, but then by the end of it, it ends up being a situation where you realize that by the time you get towards the middle or end of the event, you start to run into a wall, and then you need to start considering whether or not you want to spend money on packages in order to continue, or if you're just going to go ahead and settle for whatever you got lucky enough to get. And that's really the big problem to me. I don't necessarily like the idea of locking memories for a character behind this system, especially when you have a finite amount of chances and it's all RNG based. Now, of course, at the beginning of this video, I did outline that you can stop the board early if you just tap on the screen. The problem with that is as I outlined at the beginning, you pretty much are going to just want to use that whenever the board roll starts to slow down towards the end of its rotation, because at the beginning it's moving so fast that the odds of you being able to time it perfectly to get whatever it is you're wanting, in most cases Chizuru, you're probably going to have a lot of bad luck, and you're guaranteeing yourself that you're not going to get her if you don't have the split-second timing that it takes in order to make that happen. So to be honest with you guys, you know, when it comes to these events, while it is nice that they are offering us a really strong character potentially for free, and we can end up getting a couple of memories for them by the end of the event, or maybe even more than that if we're lucky enough, I just don't like the idea of locking this stuff behind all just pure luck on a board. However, the one thing that I would point out, and the thing that I think does save this event in general, is going to be for the fact that we just had the Guilty Gear collaboration, so everybody's probably broke on rubies. So I honestly like this event's timing, and I like the fact that they went ahead and implemented this when they did, because they knew that everybody was probably going to be broke after Guilty Gear. So being the fact that that is what it is, the fact that they gave us this event in a way to obtain the newest SS character without having to spend rubies is actually really, really cool. So I do give Netmarble credit for that aspect of this, and I don't necessarily have a major issue with this event to the point where I'm just, you know, going to be running around screaming about it for that reason. But going forward, I just hope that they don't do this constantly, because if they do, it's basically just going to make it to where a lot of players out there are not going to be able to build up a lot of these characters unless they're going to be wanting to go ahead and spend a bunch of money for extra rules on these boards. So while these events are flawed, I do think that in general they're healthy. I just think that there are things that they could do to improve upon them, whether that's going to be to extend some of these different missions so that way you have a few more attempts before the end of the event to do this stuff, so you have more rules, or whatever the case may be. Because again, a lot of this just comes down to your luck, and in the end, I don't necessarily like that, and it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of a double-edged sword. So that's pretty much what I think of this event. Now, Shizuru herself, as I've said to you guys already, is extremely strong. This is going to be a character that is going to make an excellent leader. Her shield shred has proven to be wonderful. Now, of course, I only have my Shizuru at A1. However, I have been able to test her out in Lunatic difficulty, and as you guys will even see some kind of brief clips in this video today, she's extremely good on Shield Shred and Guild Raid, so she's going to be a monster for Guild Raid, and a character that I'm going to be using quite a bit there once I'm able to build her up, if I'm able to do so. So time will tell if I'm able to build her and how far up I'm able to build her, but I am excited to be able to play around with her, because she is going to be, outside of just being a character that's great for Omega Rugal in Lunatic difficulty, going to be a character I can definitely see myself using in things like Time Attack, in things such as Immortals, for her leadership ability, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be a character that I am going to be using quite often if I'm able to build her up, but it really just comes down to what it looks like by the end of the event. I'm not planning on spending any money on this character whatsoever on any of those packages, but she is a character, if you're a super fan of her, you know, I would honestly recommend, if you do really like Shizuru, she's strong enough to warrant you spending the money it would take to get some of those packages. If you guys haven't seen yesterday's video, we did talk about those packages yesterday and break those down. So again, if you're a super fan of this character, it's probably going to end up being worth it because she is strong enough to warrant the purchase. But when it comes to any of this other stuff that we got with this event, you know, we do have the dice game. Now that is going to be tied to the Rush Dungeon. And when it comes to that, I have noticed I did some overnights and I did 99 runs overnight with the Rush Dungeon event, and I was able to pick up about 4,000 dice total doing that, and that's always going to depend on how many of the Christmas characters and cards or whatever the case may be that you have in order to increase your drop rates. So, you know, that's going to vary up and down depending on who you are and how many things that you have to increase your chances of dropping items in the Rush Dungeon. But for me, I got about 4,000 dice, and that was for basically 99,000 AP, and in my opinion, I don't necessarily think that I'm going to end up going all the way to the end of the board and doing any of the repeats. I'll probably just get myself to the point where I can get the option card that is going to be available on the, I think it's the 10th rotation of that board, if I remember correctly, and I'm probably just going to stop there. You know, they've been coming for our AP extremely hard over the course of the past several months, and I honestly don't feel comfortable spending any more than I've already spent. So I think right now I'm about 5 rotations into that board. I'll probably end up going through one more time and getting enough so that way I can pick up all the cards from the Rush Dungeon event, and that way I can also, like I said, get that option card for rounding that board for the 10th time. But outside of that, you guys, I don't necessarily see myself doing that much more grinding on that. You know, the dice games are really nice and you do get a lot of currency for that a lot of the time in the form of rubies and so on, but I don't necessarily want to spend all of my AP on these Rush Dungeons because there's so many of them that I already know that we're probably going to be seeing another Rush Dungeon event hot off the heels of this one whenever it goes away, and then I'm going to need just that much more AP for that, and so on and so forth. So I think what I'm going to do is just get the card and bounce and get those cards from the Rush Dungeon exchange shop as well, obviously, and be done with it, because I do think that these Rush Dungeon events are going to continue to be plentiful in 2022, and I just want to make sure that I don't run out of AP trying to get greedy with some of these events. And I think that that's something a lot of people out there should really look at and consider, because it is possible with the way that they've been releasing these Rush Dungeons that you could run out of AP at some point. Whether that felt like a year ago it was ever going to happen or not, I know a lot of people out there had huge stockpiles, but it's getting to that point where it's starting to get a little bit more scarce as a result of all these releases. But anyway, you guys, in general, I do think that these events were good this time around. You know, on the whole, there are going to always be problems with these events, but I do think that these were pretty good this time around. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. And as always, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. I'll see y'all on Monday. Peace.
Continue.